I was reflecting this morning on how we don't always talk about how difficult it is to follow God, how the path to following Him isn't always easy. And it's not necessarily because He's not a good God and He's not kind and He does not do beautiful things for us, but that it is how we are required to be more of who we are. There is a person we need to become, not because He doesn't accept us for who we are, but because He wants us to do better and to be better. And therefore, by virtue of you following Christ, you begin to change. You begin to become a new creature. You begin to do things that you normally wouldn't be able to do, or something that is out of your comfort zone. And the thing about following Christ is that for those who have not experienced full intimacy with Him will not understand. They will not understand your love for following after this God. They just, it doesn't make sense to them. And it's difficult because once you've experienced that type of love, nothing else comes close to it. You can try, you can look for other sources, but nothing comes close to the love of God. And when I was thinking about this, is that when we do this and in pursuit of Him, we start to shed things off, we start to remove them, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that removal is easy. And some of those things are things that we do, it's attributes that you have, where you have to face yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, Hore, the way the way that I am right now, is it conducive of the person that God wants me to be? And sometimes those conversations that you have with yourself are the toughest ones to have, because then you need to be honest about who you and are, whether that trait, that attribute is going to take you there. And I have found that it's not always easy. And we talk about glorifying Him. We talk about how good He is, which He is good. He is a good God. But we don't always talk about how difficult it is in the process of being refined to being that person. And I also realized hormonally a bit of a disconnect between, at times we recognize Him on Sundays, right? We say, oh no, He's a good God, He does this, and we're all happy. And then during the week, we fail to see Him in the details of our lives. And I just made a decision to say, starting today, I want to find Him in the details of my life. I want to find Him in my finances. I want to find Him in my relationships. I want to find Him in the workplace. Because a lot of the time, when we disconnect from who He is, we feel that following Him is a burden, if I can put it like that, when it isn't. Because once He has walked with us, it becomes almost second nature for us to do certain things that otherwise we wouldn't be able to do. And another thing that we fail to do, or that we try to do, is we try to bring people along that have not been convicted themselves. And this is something that I've realized, that unless a person has been convicted of themselves, and know who this person is and has experienced a relationship with them, there's nothing you can do. No matter how much you talk about Him, no matter how much you try to explain how He's a good God, bear, your testimony, your heart out about certain things. If a person has not experienced God for themselves, they do not know Him. It is difficult for them to comprehend the type of intimacy that you want with this being. It's just not something that they comprehend. And I was listening to a podcast the other day, and the person said we should allow people to arrive to a knowledge of certain things by themselves. It shouldn't be something that we are forced to do. And I think sometimes when we are Christians and we have experienced this love, the most natural thing we want to do is to share it. We want to show people, yo, I've experienced this thing, come and join me on this thing. But not everyone wants to experience it, or not everyone is willing to sacrifice some of the things that are needed to experience the type of intimacy that you want with this being. And that should be okay. God has always instructed us to love people, and that is what we do. But at no point has He asked us that once you've experienced His love and we've understood who He is, to go back to a place where we now do things that we know we shouldn't be doing just to accommodate other people. That is not what He has asked us to do. In fact, He said that He has set us apart, meaning that once we have reached a certain stage, relationship, intimacy, knowledge of who He is, it's difficult to go back. And yes, we love people. Yes, we encourage people. Yes, we want people to join us on this journey. But at no point does God ever ask us to now go back to doing certain things that we were doing, especially once we have seen His goodness and His kindness, and especially when you've been convicted on a certain principle. Because I think this is the thing that people don't understand. things don't come all at once, right? God will convert your heart to certain principles. But once God has revealed and you know for yourself and you feel it in your spirit, this particular thing is wrong, you can't go back to it. No matter what you do, your spirit will not allow you. You will feel it, this is not what the Lord wants you to do. And at that point, you need to make a decision whether you go back to pretending like you did not experience God for yourself, or you continue in the knowledge of who He is and trust that He knows what He's doing. It doesn't mean that it's not going to be easy. It doesn't mean that automatically, I'm saying things will just automatically fall into place. But it just means that you make a decision that this is the God that I'm going to follow. Where you go, I go. And as a result of that, it might mean that certain things will fall off along the way. Not because you are not kind, not because God has not called you to those people, but because you cannot serve two masters. The Lord is very clear on that you will love one and you will hate the other. It is very difficult to follow after another God when you have made a decision in your heart that this is the God that you follow. So I think that's just something that I thought about today, and I am going to be doing that. I keep making these commitments, but it's something that I know I need to do. So that is why I then decided that I'm going to do this challenge, and I hope that you'll join me on this challenge, because to be honest, we need something that will encourage us. We live in a world where people do just think we are stupid for following Christ, and it came to my spirit that if a person has not experienced Christ for themselves, they won't understand you. They really will feel like it's foolishness, like you're being stupid for trying to live a certain way, for trying to not do certain things. It is foolishness to man. The things of God are foolishness to man. So maybe someone is looking at this and thinking, here's another one, she's is what it is. But I'm going to do it for myself to keep myself encouraged, and I pray that you do the same. Because the one thing I've learned about God, He is a good God. And if He was good then, when you experience whatever moment you had with Him, He is good even today.